These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Yes. Welcome in to a producer/pilotless edition of Mackey and Judd and thus Reckless Speculation Thursday.
Reckless Speculation.
To all who celebrate. It's Mackey, it's Judd. Declan is speaking to aspiring journalism students at St. Cloud State today, which could either be the best day of their lives or the worst. We're not sure yet. Doogie has been hit hard by whatever this bug is that everyone is getting here, so he sounds like a slow-motion version of Doogie today.
I don't know if it's the bubonic plague, Phil. I don't know what the heck it is, but it is now 9 days strong. I can't kick it. Like, it's drug after drug. I've tried everything imaginable. Like, seriously, if anybody has an idea that I haven't tried, please tweet me, email me, text me, whatever it is. If you're able to communicate with me, please do. But I cannot shake whatever the heck it is I have. I cannot get rid of it.
It's right in here, Dukes. You can hear it. It's right in the throat, right? It's
It does sound like you like your tape is distorted and you're talking a little bit like this, but not. It's not like you're talking at the same speed, but there's more bass.
Like a record, like an old school record that's been slowed down.
I already have a deep voice. Yeah, the voice is probably a bit deeper, but yeah, it's in my sinuses too, Judd. You're right. It's like it's in the throat. I can certainly feel it in my throat, but I feel it around my nose as well.
It's like one of those.
I just don't know when it's going to leave me. Like 9 days. Like Uncle Mercy. I tested negative for COVID, but for all I know, maybe it's COVID. I don't know.
This is like a Dateline episode where they sort of like they blur out someone's face and then disguise their voice so that they don't get hit up by the mob that they're tattling on national TV here. So we can take advantage here of.
He's in the Wolves protection program. What he's about to say about the Wolves will be so inflammatory that he's actually had his voice and identity changed.
So, well, let's start there. The Wolves, the Suns come in, no Chris Paul. Like, they've got multiple key players injured, and they just absolutely destroy the Timberwolves. Another lifeless performance, which they get booed off the court multiple times. At one point, Devin Booker actually yelled the answers to the test at the Timberwolves bench saying, "We play team basketball. We share the ball." If you're the Timberwolves, you should have been taking notes when Devin Booker was yelling at you. So, I don't know, Doogie, from what you are observing and from what you've heard, I don't know how much people are spilling behind the scenes over there right now. What the hell is going on? And is there any sort of big move or viable change that could spark this, or is this just the bed that they've made for the next few months?
Well, I mean, for the next few months, Phil, it's the latter. It's not like any sort of trade is imminent. Now, I've had people say, what about calling Phoenix? Jay Crowder is just sitting there for the taking, right? Like, there's some dog there, right? You missed that dog with Patrick Beverley. Bring in Jay Crowder. But I just don't sense that Phoenix is a willing partner right now, that Phoenix wants to move him to a Western Conference team. There just isn't buzz that the Wolves have genuine interest in Jay Crowder. So outside of that, Phil, like, there's not really a move to be made. Now, come late January into February, yes, I do think there are going to be sellers that at that point decide to truly tank. So there will be some opportunities to strike then. But for the foreseeable future, no. Here is the most damning thing I've had at least one high-ranking Wolves official tell me. It's effort, that they're not playing hard enough. Like, are you kidding me? What do you mean that your guys aren't playing hard enough? Now, they're not playing smart enough, too. But when questioning effort, like, that's as rock bottom to me as it gets. But it's a joyless bunch. Judd, it's everything we discussed on Tuesday. It played out again last night. We talked about how joyless this team is. Now, they are sharing the ball a bit better. But, like, it looks like, and I saw you tweet this, Judd, it looks like a collection of guys who want their coach fired. But I can just tell you, they truly enjoy Chris Finch. They really do. Now, Anthony Edwards and Finch had some rocky moments last year. I don't know if we've ever discussed that, but my understanding is Ant and Finch are in a much better spot today than they were, say, last December or January. Like, the guys really do enjoy Chris Finch. But the way they're playing, Judd, I'm with you. It looks like they want their coach fired. But he's not getting fired anytime soon.
It's really weird, though. And on Ant, it's disturbing to me that the word that you used is coming from a top-ranking Wolves official applies there, which is, again, effort and being engaged. With Cat, I guess I'm not completely shocked that he continues to put up good box scores, but you definitely, the eye test tells you something different. D'Lo has been a disaster. We've talked about that. But, Ant was the guy who appeared to so often previously play with joy when other guys didn't. And now he's fallen into the trap. And I don't know if it's because of what the rest of the guys are doing or what, but that really concerns me because, he's still a young man. And him being soured at this point or something being wrong is really concerning. My laundry list of concerns about what we see is absolutely huge right now, and that's the problem. This doesn't look like a 25 game. Just get out there, throw the ball out there, and find a way to make this work. This looks like a bunch of guys who are just joyless and like they're not the gelling process hasn't even started yet. It's like as individuals, they appear miserable. Ant is just like, there's a lot of times I think he's just checked out, Dukes.
Well, he went on record, I'm paraphrasing slightly, but very early this season, he went on the record questioning how tough it is for him to play with two bigs. When you go on the record with that, what are the conversations like behind the scenes? And like the gelling part, Judd, look at Utah. New coach, a bunch of new players. Yeah. Like they clearly worked on stuff in training camp. Like what did the Wolves do the whole month of October? I truly question that. You think about Cleveland, my guy JB Bickerstaff, Donovan Mitchell comes in. That's been a seamless transition. So I'm not buying this. We need time to figure things out. I get it. Cat missed time in the preseason. He missed training camp. Gobert needed to rest after overexerting himself in Eurobasket. I understand some of those things, but at some point we need to move past these excuses. Like, and you look at the upcoming schedule at Memphis, at Cleveland, okay, at Orlando, although Orlando beat Dallas last night, but you should be able to win next week at Orlando. But then you have games against Philadelphia, Miami. Like, are we looking at a run here when we talk this time next week of the Wolves losing something like 8 of 9 games?
Man.
And remember, these first 12 to 13 games, this was supposed to be the easy portion of their schedule. All these home games, all those games against the Thunder, the one against Houston, the games against the Spurs, these were supposed to be easy games. So I'm sick of hearing the 4-9 comparison to last year. And oh, by the way, the expectations this year were far greater than 46 wins. So they started 4-9 last year, got to 46, had to fight, scratch, claw just to be the 7th seed, just to have that home game in the play-in tournament. The expectations this year, whether stated or not, certainly behind the scenes were, we will finish in the top 4 of the Western Conference. We will have home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. Then we'll take our chances. No guarantees thereafter, but that we feel like we've assembled a roster that can be one of the 4 best in the Western Conference. Yeah. At this point, I get it. It's still relatively early. But like, would anybody bet on the Wolves being a top 4 team at this point in the Western Conference? I still think there's a legitimate pathway to being a top 10 team, bare minimum being a play-in team, but like, could you imagine worst case scenario, Phil? Could you imagine if the Wolves end up in the lottery, then somehow get lottery luck? This is a transformational draft next June. Could you imagine if the Wolves end up with a top 4 pick? God forbid, the number 1 pick. But if they end up with a top 4 pick, then you need to convey that pick to the Utah Jazz, who, oh, by the way, very well could be a playoff team. Like, I could not have been more wrong about Utah.
Yeah, well,
I'm not quite sure they will finish top 6, but like, to me, Utah for sure is in the play-in, bare minimum, maybe higher. Maybe they do finish in the top 6, but like, to me, they finish somewhere at least between 7 and 10. But could you imagine that nightmare scenario if the Wolves need to convey a top 4 pick to the Utah Jazz? Oh my God!
Or Jazz Wolves in a play-in game or something. You know, I could see. I mean, the Jazz have a bunch of professional basketball players, which is something that I think a lot of us, me included, overlooked. Real quick, so I am done with D'Angelo Russell. I was done at times last year. I was done after the playoff series. I am 100% done with him. He is not a winning player. And when I mean, there's a lot of, for some reason, D'Lo has all these defenders on social media. I don't know if there's just like a wave of D'Lo defender bots out there, but, well, what about that season in Brooklyn? Well, what about last year? Okay, I'm not talking about winning at a 41 win pace or a 46 win pace. I mean winning big in the NBA. He's never come anywhere near it. And in the 2 seasons where he did go to the playoffs, he's been atrocious in the playoff series. He is a losing basketball player. I am done with him. And so I guess my question now is, what can you do with him? I would legitimately consider giving Jordan McLaughlin, who's not perfect, he didn't play a lot or well last night, but I would give him the starting job to shake up the starting lineup. And I would sit D'Lo down and say, listen, you can either not play, or you can come in with the second unit and give some sort of scoring punch and try and rejuvenate this contract season for yourself. We will also be looking to move your expiring contract to a team that wants to clear cap space next summer. So my question to you, Doogie, is how would he handle? Because I think it's coming, dude. I don't think he's got the rights to start all year if he keeps playing like this. So I think he might actually get removed from the starting lineup at some point. But what are your options? His contract is fairly valuable to a team looking to move off maybe a bad longer contract. So are there options out there for you to move him, just extract him from the situation in the next couple months or sooner? And what would you have to take back? What would you have to sort of close your eyes and shield and say, swallow hard and say, all right, we'll take that back just to get rid of D'Lo?
Well, I mean, you would have to take back longer-term money. You're right. There are teams that would say, okay, we would welcome creating that salary cap space for next summer. This fits more into the reckless speculation Thursday theme because there certainly isn't any legitimate steam on this. But you think about a guy like Terry Rozier with the Charlotte Hornets. Now, LaMelo Ball is still out, right? So Charlotte may want to see Ball with Rozier more, see where they're at in a month or two once Ball is back. But like Charlotte seems to be stuck in middle purgatory. Where exactly is Charlotte going? Right? So that's the sort of idea. Heck, would Brooklyn at some point entertain moving off the Ben Simmons contract?
I can't do that. I mean, you can't put him and Gobert on
and
the
I
court.
couldn't do that just based on his injury history, the way he's playing right now. I would not want to bring on that Ben Simmons contract now. Now, remember, Gerson Rosas tried hard. Gerson wanted Ben Simmons badly, but right now, I couldn't do something like that. I still wonder, with Danny Ainge in Utah, with this transformational center, the 7'3" Frenchman that is said to be the best pro prospect in decades, like going back to LeBron James. Now maybe Zion, depending on, how you want to debate it. But this Victor guy is off the charts, like 7'3", and he's a legit three-point shooter. Like, Utah at some point may say, you know what, this is fun, but let's pull the cord. So could you somehow get Mike Conley Jr., who has an extra year on his contract? Now, 1-for-1, Conley for Russell doesn't work, so you'd have to make the money work. But it would be that sort of
maybe they'll kick Vando back.
Idea.
They kick Vando back.
I will tell you this much, Phil. I've never gotten the sense that Tim Connolly has any true interest in extending Russell.
Yeah.
Now, I was told
I hope not.
He was open-minded, right? That you can look at it and say, okay, Russell has never played with a center like Gobert. Let's see this play out. Russell's in a contract year. If we end up winning 52, 53 games, achieve that goal of being a top 4 team in the West, it's not like we have cap flexibility. We can then extend him. So let's see. Let's see if this thing plays out to the extent that we think it can play out. That Connolly was open-minded. But I've just never gotten the sense that Tim Connolly is a big D'Angelo Russell fan. So sure, at some point, if you're Tim, you try to move off Russell. Now, Phil, you say he's a losing player.
Yeah.
What exactly is Karl-Anthony Towns?
That's what I was going to ask.
He's also 8 years
He's also a losing player. Unless
All right,
I
well,
will say this.
Kendrick Perkins, who has a loud voice, certainly is knowledgeable, ESPN talking head. He tweeted last night, "It's time to trade Cat.
Yeah.
It's time to build this thing around Ant."
Well, let me add some clarification here. Much like Andrew Wiggins was a losing player when put in a spot too high on the rung of the team's pecking order. Andrew Wiggins as the guy or as the number 2, losing player, losing team. Andrew Wiggins as the 3rd or 4th guy in a role player mode. Don't worry about carrying the franchise on your back. Just go and cut and defend and shoot corner threes and play with some energy. Okay, now he becomes a winning piece. And I mean, Kevin Love, there's a lot of similarities to Karl-Anthony Towns, Kevin Love, in that the box scores are insane on a nightly basis, but they don't come anywhere near translating to team wins. Then you take Kevin Love out of the spotlight of being the man on the Timberwolves. All right, now you're going to be like the 3rd guy on Cleveland's teams. You don't have to worry about carrying the franchise. Just go do like 2 or 3 things really well and stay under the radar. Boom. All of a sudden, he's a perfect fit for Cleveland and winning championships. I actually think Karl-Anthony Towns, in the right circumstance, and you'd like it to happen here because he is a good player in terms of just like his skills. But he's kind of put in this position where he's the spokesman after every game, and he kind of sets the culture with this weird. He has this sort of weird personality and gives out these weird vibes. He's flailing every time there's contact. Anthony Edwards the other night, Doogs, made a comment. It was like, I think it was after the Knicks loss, and he said, you know, he's called the team soft. He said we give out these soft vibes. Every time we get bumped, we overreact and flail. Me included, he said. But who's he talking about? He's talking about Cat. It's not a mystery who he's talking about.
Well, I mean, Jimmy Butler was right? Jimmy didn't do a good job of delivering the message, but the message wasn't wrong. I'm with you, Phil. There's enough talent there. That skill set for a 7-footer, that can translate, but it can't necessarily translate when you're the alpha, right? You can't be the main guy. But can Cat go on and have a successful career, a winning career? Absolutely. Now with D'Angelo, like, what is that role? Is that a 6th man type role? Like, is he ever truly a starter on a really good team and playing high level?
No, because it would happen. Right. This has been a D'Lo Cat team for 4 years.
See that. I don't.
I don't know what more evidence we need. Like D'Lo and Cat as guys who take up that much money in a salary cap, guys who are that frontal, who play that many minutes, who are leading the team. It has maxed out. It has maxed out, and that's why they brought in Gobert.
I think they need to be careful on losing Ant. Like, there is something to be said about when do you pull the cord. Now, the Wolves are not pulling the cord like some sort of monumental trade anytime this season. Like, I'm just telling you, like, things would have to go way, way, way further south for them to even consider trading Karl-Anthony Towns. But I just fear that at some point you could lose Ant.
Start with D'Lo then.
So there is something to be said. Kendrick Perkins isn't alone in that opinion, that it's time to build around Ant. Now, short term, Phil, I'm with you. Jordan McLaughlin needs to start tomorrow night in Memphis. He just has to. I don't know if the Wolves are willing to consider that. They do discuss lineup scenarios behind the scenes, but will they truly implement a change like that? I need to see it to believe it. But that to me is an obvious move. Jordan McLaughlin needs to be in the starting lineup tomorrow. The other thing I would do, I would get Luka Garza up from Iowa. I would play Luka Garza. Yeah. I just would.
Great eyebrows.
We saw enough in the preseason. He's in phenomenal shape. There's a good ball player there. See if he can give you some sort of jolt. I'm not saying he will, but it's something that I would at least try. So those are 2 immediate moves I would make. But undoubtedly, like, it has to happen, Jordan McLaughlin in the starting lineup.
I think to save some pride there, too, what you do is you call D'Lo in today and say, God, that was too bad that you turned your ankle last night. And he said, I didn't turn my ankle. He said, yeah, you did. So that you don't demote him outright yet. Because, like, this is all going to be now, Dukes, a balancing act, too, with personalities. egos, etc. The other thing with Cat, though, is, and this has been probably Cat's biggest problem here, and I think the ship has sailed, and this is the problem between him doing it here and him doing it in a place like a Golden State or something like Andrew did, where he gets a fresh start, is, and this is the one thing that's become abundantly clear when I'm at games. None of the key Wolves players understand their role. And Cat is the biggest problem in that, because it translates to off the court. Cat thinks that his teammates want him to lead, so he's the captain. So he gets up there and he talks. And it's the same word diarrhea every single time. He's playing, you know what? Much like with Kirk, with Zimmer, he's playing the role of what he thinks a star should be. He's not doing it from a place of, I know what I'm talking about. And on the floor right now, watch Cat play. He has what we thought was going to be his role and how he plays are very different things, because he has no idea what he's supposed to do. He has no clue. And the one thing that drives me absolutely crazy is he is a very talented guy. He's incredibly talented. And he can make, for instance, some good passes. But these periods where he thinks he's magic out there and he's flailing the ball around is some of the dumbest basketball I've seen. He's made some passes that are just completely irresponsible and stupid because he doesn't understand, okay, here's what you're supposed to do. And my issue is this. Can Finch and the coaching staff get him to a place where he does? Because so far, it's never happened here. He's never truly, unless it's just a small period of time, he often gets outside himself as far as understanding what his role is supposed to be.
Well, I mean, 8 years in, I'm not confident it's ever going to be fully figured out here. Mm-hmm. It may take a change of scenery. The offensive fouls need to stop. Last night, his second foul. How obvious was it? Judd, you were there. Mikal Bridges is on him. How obvious was it the way Bridges was getting up into him that he was going to hit him with his elbow on a shot? Like Cat, it was so easy to see. Yeah. Then right after that, he gets whistled for his third foul. Now, that was not a foul. Right. Chris Finch, to me, should have challenged. I know coaches don't like to challenge early in a game, but considering the circumstances, Chris Finch blew it last night, not challenging that third Cat foul, because that wasn't a foul. That would have been overturned. He could have stayed on the court. That game really changed last night when Cat picked up his third foul. I still think, Judd, even though I agree with a lot of what you just laid out, I still think pecking order-wise, when listing the issues with this team, Cat overall is not like 1, 2, 3, or maybe even 4 on my list. Like it's D'Lo. It's Ant's lack of engagement. It's not playing hard. It's not closing out on shots. Yeah. Like they give up so many open looks. Now they've won some games when, the other team just hasn't made shots.
Yes.
But they have to stop giving up so many open looks. The ball movement has been better this week. I know it's hard to believe when you lose 2 home games by double digits, but the ball movement has improved. But that was an issue through the first 7 or 8 games. I'm just saying, I think overall Cat, he's not 1, 2, or even 3. If you want to make a case, maybe 4 on the list. I don't think he's top 3 though. Why this team is 5 and 7.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It's so hard because again he puts up these efficient box scores and he looks like a great. If you didn't watch the games or if you didn't sort of sense the vibes that he gives off that permeate throughout the team, you would think, oh man, that guy, wow. Because I've kind of thought this for years. I mean, look at this guy. Look at how efficient he is. He's one of the most efficient offensive players. His advanced analytics translate on paper. So I agree with you that there's other things that are just like bigger holes to plug in the interim. But if you're looking for solutions at some point, he's the most valuable chip that you could move, recoup some of the things you got you had to give up in the Rudy Gobert trade, and maybe open things up for Anthony Edwards if you want to give him the key. But part of the another thing here too, Doogie, is I think a lot of people hope that Anthony Edwards, 21 years old, that the year 3 leap would include him. This would be his team. He's not emotionally, he's just not ready to do that yet. I don't want people to go too far and say, well, that means that you need to be patient with these guys sometimes. It might take 5 or 6 years before they become that player.
Absolutely. I mean, he just turned 21.
Right.
Now, I get it. His 1 year in college, that was a losing team, right? So, like, when's the last time, I guess back in high school or AAU, that Anthony Edwards won at a truly high level? But, like, he's 21. You're right. Let's give him some time. That's why, there is legitimacy to the idea of, okay, let's build around him. Right? Like, there's enough there. We've seen enough. Let's build around him. Let's trade Cat to the New York Knicks. Again, this fits the Reckless Speculation Thursday theme. Not like there's actual dialogue. But Leon Rose, Cat's former agent, running the Knicks. Not that Tibbs.
Which contract are we taking back?
What's been led to believe that Tibbs is a big Cat fan, but Leon Rose is, right? Yep. The Knicks weren't able to complete the Donovan Mitchell trade, but the Knicks have all these first-round picks.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you, if it ever got to that point, I bet the Knicks would put 3 first-round picks on the table. They would put Obi Toppin on the table.
We got to take a contract, though.
I would have won R.J. Barrett, but you could get another young piece from New York, maybe multiple young pieces.
Like Toppin.
Like, if you wanted to trade Cat, you could trade Cat.
Interesting. Hey, so to go back on Cat though. So Dukes, I'm not saying that he is an immediate problem as far as like what he does statistically or as a player necessarily. But I am saying that Cat is, so when we say losing player, I think a very fair question is, what does that mean exactly? Like let's boil that down a bit. And here's my opinion of Cat. Cat does set a tone, and Cat does very much have an impact on this team. And Cat is your star player. But in my opinion, the tone is a cloud. It's a rain cloud that hangs over constantly with whining and flopping to the floor and complaining to officials. And last night, getting a really stupid technical. So that to me is a losing player. When can you overcome obstacles? Ever? And my answer on Cat is almost never. And that's my problem. And I'm going to tell you something too, because we've heard a lot of something seems wrong in the locker room, something seems off, and we clearly aren't there. But I'm going to give you one small thing that I think is publicly smoldering, but might be a fire behind the scenes. When Cat, as the unofficial spokesman for this team, I'm the leader, I'm going to get this turned around. When he comes out in a post-game press conference and points to Ant and the Popeyes thing, okay? Mildly funny, not very smart, but let's not dismiss. Ant is a young man who's prideful. And Ant is playing on a team where he knows Cat is the guy. And after a crappy performance by everybody, including Cat's friend D'Lo, he says, this guy doesn't eat right. When Ant's thing is, true or not, no, I actually have for like 2 years, dude. Those are the things where when we say, what's going on behind the scenes? Why is there a distance? Why is there that to me, and fans might be like, oh, come on, Judd, this is typical Judd. You're panicking. But we have seen.
There's something there. Keep going. Yeah, there's definitely something here with what you're saying.
And keep in mind, when Cat says that to us is like, okay, that's an interesting thing. But that usually means the frustration behind the scenes is greater. All I'm saying is Karl is I think very much a guy that sets a tone here, but I don't think it's ever positive. And that becomes a cloud over a team and an Eeyore type of personality that drags athletes down. Last point, case in point, the Vikings. A big reason why I think the Vikings are good, why they are creating their own luck. Look at the personality of this team now. Look at how much fun this team has. You cannot just throw human beings out there and say, you are a fantasy basketball team. Look at your stats. So I actually think the Popeyes thing was underplayed because to me that reeks of something far deeper that, to your point, Dukes, is affecting a guy like Ant. And now you're actually taking him down a path that you do not want him to go down.
Well put. I do think there's something to be said about those Popeyes comments. Now, we'll never get any sort of confirmation, I don't even think on background, but certainly on the record. Right. But, like, Cat is supposed to be the team leader. Like, who looks at Cat in that locker room as the true leader
Nobody.
of this team. I don't know who the leader is.
Nobody does.
I know Taurean Prince is trying to take on some of those qualities.
That's tough.
Austin Rivers has leadership qualities, but he doesn't play enough, although he played well on Monday. Then he was sick last night, although he's not sick. He would have played last night. So maybe at some point if Austin Rivers plays more, guys can gravitate toward him. But truly, who is the leader on this team? And the word on Gobert from people in Utah was good dude, likable dude, but teammates did not embrace him as any sort of leader. So I don't think he's going to be a leader here, certainly not anytime real soon. So really, who is the team leader? Last year, we knew it was Pat Bev. Who is it this year? I don't think they have one.
All right, by the way, I was absolutely in full agreement with Judd's point there. It's so hard though because it's hard to quantify some of the things that we are saying, but there's just to the point when you talk about vibes matter in sports. Locker room vibes. The Vikings are a top 3 NFL vibes team this year, right? You got Kirk with the chain celebrating, chemistry, Kevin O'Connell bringing everything together. This team so far through the first 12 games or whatever it's been, the vibes are uncomfortable at best and maybe toxic at worst. So I agree. And some of this is too, it's like all of us, the three of us.
I don't think it's quite toxic yet, Phil.
Okay.
Now, if they're 5-12, 5-13, if this losing streak spirals out of control, we can revisit this topic. I don't think it's quite toxic yet.
I have spent the last few minutes, too, just kind of ruminating on Knicks trades just for fun here. We could maybe do this every week until they fix it. It's just like, what kind of trades would be available out there? So if you decided at some point, if you wanted to trade Karl-Anthony Towns to the Knicks, let's say, I agree with you, that's not something that would happen until next summer. I think they're going to move off D'Lo this year, like to get some value back for that contract. But if you did decide to trade Cat in the season, here's the trade that would probably have to happen with the Knicks. They're not trading Jalen Brunson, obviously. I don't think they would trade Julius Randle, but maybe you tell me. Would they move off?
Oh, I think they would trade Julius Randle.
Okay,
yeah, I do. I don't know if I'd want him, but
I
they
know
would trade
that's
him.
the thing. So, but let's just say, because I don't know that you're interested in signing up for basically 4 years of Julius Randle here. Part of this would be creating some freedom. You'd have to match $33 million in salary. Evan Fournier is $18 million, and 34-year-old Derrick Rose is $14 million with a team option next year. So he would come off your books. So you basically like a half season of Derrick Rose off the bench or something, helping to run point, and then 2 guaranteed years of Evan Fournier, who's a 30-year-old 3-point shooter. Yeah, he's whatever. He's just he's kind of just a guy, but he can shoot some threes. But you'd be on the hook for him for 2 years.
I mean, I wouldn't want him, but
you got to match
need to
salary
make the money
somehow.
work, I suppose. Yeah. But I certainly would not want him
unless they're going to trade 4 years of Mitchell Robinson, who's 24 years old. Again, some of this is what would they do, and then draft picks. You'd be essentially trying to get a couple first-round draft picks back, right? I don't think you're getting.
Well,
4,
you would get more than 2. You'd get 3 at least. The question is, could you get 4?
Boy, I don't know, man. I mean, if you can get 3 first-round picks, and you have to take back a couple weird contracts for Cat. It's definitely not a win this season move, but if it gets you value back and it frees things up for Ant, I mean, these are the types. We're early on this, but these are the types of things you have to start thinking about.
At the earliest, we're talking next June, but I'm just telling you, Phil, I'd be shocked if you couldn't get at least 3. Like the question would be, could it be 4? Could you get 4 with also a pick swap? But like that's the price. There's enough out there fans wise of Cat. Like, and it wouldn't just be the Knicks. I point to the Leon Rose connection. New York still seemingly chasing a star, couldn't complete the deal for Mitchell. You know, Cat's ties to the East Coast. I just think the Knicks would be in those sweepstakes for sure. But like Toronto was in on Gobert. You know, Chicago had some interest in Gobert. You know, so those would be 2 other franchises I would look at. But New York has all that first-round capital, right? That's why the Knicks seem like a logical trade target. But like you could come up with some other scenarios. But Phil, I'm telling you, like you would get at least 3 first-round picks in a Cat trade.
Interesting. Rapid fire scoops. Anything else in your bag here?
Well, the Vikings did send a pretty nice contingency down to Texas on Tuesday for Adam Zimmer's funeral. I mean, that situation is as sad as it gets.
So Texas?
Just
okay.
and just the way he was found dead, right? This wasn't a suicide. And so just the details are so sad. But yeah, Harrison Smith went down, Troy Dye, some former coaches, some other people. The Vikings sent a contingency of over 15 people. So I'm glad the Vikings did that on Tuesday. Judd, we talked on Tuesday about Dalvin Tomlinson. I wasn't shocked, right? Like, based on what I said on Tuesday, I wasn't shocked that he didn't practice on Wednesday. I know Kevin O'Connell said week to week, but my sense is it's been more of a multi-week situation.
Right.
Now, I think there's a better chance he plays than Cam Dantzler, who's still in a boot on Sunday. But,
I bet he doesn't play.
To me, I'm not sure we see Tomlinson on Sunday. Now, Garrett Bradbury didn't practice yesterday. My understanding is he'll play on Sunday. Clearly, by the way, if you guys have been looking at the line, Phil, I'm sure you have, the way that line keeps going down, Vegas always knows, right? Like, Case Keenum is playing on Sunday. Josh Allen's not playing in this game based on the way the line is plummeted from like 9 to like 3.5 or 4, right? So, like, I will be surprised if Josh Allen plays on Sunday.
Yeah. Great stuff, Dukes. This is what Reckless Speculation was built on.
It's all about
Thursdays. Right here.
Ethan Kellick-Manis time on Saturday. He is going to play. The question is if Tanner Morgan is cleared. Does he get a series or two, something like that? Then heading into senior day a week from Saturday. But Ethan Kellick-Manis is going to play on Saturday against Northwestern. A homecoming for Northwestern running back Evan Hall, the Maple Grove running back, one of the best running backs in the Big Ten. He'll have 40 family and friends in attendance at Huntington Bank Stadium on Saturday.
All right. Roll the boat, Sky Ma. Let's get it. Go Gophers. Go Pinstripe Bowl. Have fun in New York, everyone. All right, Doogie. Go get some tea.
All right, boys.
Rest
Take
up.
it easy.
We'll talk
Darren.
to you for next week's session.
Thanks, boys.
All right.
Yep. Have a great week.
Reckless Speculation Thursday here. We'll throw Dukes out here. Boom, boom, boom. So that was presented by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. Federated's been around for over 100 years, based in Owatonna, helping businesses maximize their level of success. They're all about risk management tools and resources, like having a great offensive line for your business. Find out how they can help your business at federatedinsurance.com, or it's our business to protect yours. All right.